At just 18 years old, Adama discovered that her family's debt had a terrible price, and she was the payment. In the peaceful village of Ape, where the sound of fishing boats moving across the water filled the mornings, lived a beautiful 18-year-old girl named Adama. She was known by everyone for her kindness, bright smile, and caring heart. Adama lived in a small house with her father, Chinedu, and her two brothers, Emeka and Namdi. Their family was poor, but Adama believed love was more important than wealth. She spent her days helping her father, taking care of her brothers, and dreaming about a future where she could give her family a better life. She often imagined building a bigger home where her father could rest without worrying about money. Even though life was difficult, Adama always tried to remain hopeful. However, behind their simple happiness was a pain the family carried silently. Adama's mother had abandoned them years earlier, leaving Chinedu alone to raise 3 children. At first, Adama waited every day, hoping her mother would return, but as time passed, she accepted that she was gone. Her father worked harder, but feeding the family became almost impossible. Watching his children sleep hungry broke his heart, and he eventually made a decision he never wanted to make. He went to Chief Okoro, a wealthy and powerful man in the village, and borrowed money to keep his family alive. Chinedu promised he would repay the debt, believing things would become better soon. But he did not know that the loan would become the beginning of a tragedy that would change Adama's life forever. For several years, Chinedu struggled to repay the money he borrowed from Chief Okoro. Every day, he worked from morning until night, taking every job he could find, but the debt continued growing because of the chief's demands. Adama noticed her father becoming quieter and weaker. The man who once sang while working now sat alone at night, staring into darkness. Emeka and Namdi also noticed their father's sadness, but they were too young to understand the burden he carried. Adama tried to support him by helping more around the house, but she could see that poverty was slowly breaking their family apart. Still, she refused to stop believing that one day their struggles would end. One evening, while the family was eating their small dinner, they heard footsteps outside their home. Chief Okoro arrived with a serious expression on his face. The entire family became silent because everyone knew his visit meant trouble. He reminded Chinedu that many years had passed and the debt remained unpaid. Chinedu begged for more time, explaining that he had tried his best, but the chief was not interested in excuses. He told Chinedu that since money could not be returned, he would find another way to collect what he was owed. His eyes moved toward Adama, and fear immediately filled her heart. At that moment, she realized that her father's debt was about to become her own suffering. The next morning, Chief Okoro returned to Chinedu's house, and this time he came prepared. The villagers watched from a distance because they knew the chief had power and influence. Chinedu stood outside his home, begging him not to destroy his family. He promised he would find a way to pay the debt, but the chief only laughed. He told him that promises could not replace money. Adama stood beside her father, holding back tears as she watched the man who raised her lose his strength. She wanted to fight for him, but she knew they were powerless against someone as wealthy as the chief. Chief Okoro then revealed his plan. He told Chinedu that Adama would be taken away as payment for the debt. The words shocked everyone. Emeka became angry and wanted to attack the chief, but Namdi stopped him because he feared what would happen. Chinedu refused and begged them to take anything else instead, but the chief ignored him. Adama looked at her father and brothers and saw their pain. Although she was terrified, she stepped forward because she did not want her family to suffer more. She told her father that she would go, hoping her sacrifice would save them. As she left her home, Adama looked back one last time, not knowing when she would see her family again. Adama's journey away from Ape Village felt like she was leaving behind the only world she had ever known. As she followed Chief Okoro's men, she kept looking back at the road that led to her home, hoping someone would call her name and stop everything. She thought about her father's tired face, Emeka's anger, and Namdi's frightened eyes. She wanted to run back, but she knew the chief had already made his decision. The only comfort she carried was the belief that her sacrifice would protect her family from losing their home. She promised herself that she would endure whatever came her way and return one day. Chief Okoro took Adama to a woman named Mama Ifeoma, who lived far from the village. The woman was known for controlling young girls and using their situations to make money. When Adama discovered the kind of life she was being forced into, she became terrified and begged to return home. Mama Ifeoma explained that Chief Okoro had already settled the arrangement and that refusing would only bring danger to her family. Adama felt trapped, but the thought of her father and brothers gave her the strength to keep going. That night, she cried silently, holding on to memories of happier days. She knew her life had changed forever, but she refused to let her pain destroy her completely. The first months away from home were the hardest days Adama had ever experienced. She struggled to accept the reality of her situation because it was completely different from the peaceful life she once knew in Ape. The girl who used to laugh with her brothers now spent most of her time silent and lost in her thoughts. She missed helping her father, hearing Emeka's jokes, and listening to Namdi talk about his dreams. Every night before sleeping, she imagined herself walking back into her family's house and telling them everything was finally over. Back in Ape Village, Chinedu's heart was filled with guilt. He blamed himself for allowing the situation to happen, even though he had only borrowed the money to save his children from hunger. Emeka tried to be strong for his father and younger brother, but he was angry at the world for taking Adama away. Namdi often asked when his sister would return, and Chinedu struggled to answer. Meanwhile, Adama continued surviving because she believed her family needed her. She told herself that every difficult day brought her closer to freedom. Although her spirit was wounded, a small hope remained alive inside her heart. Months turned into a year, and Adama learned how to hide her suffering from everyone around her. She no longer cried as often as she did at the beginning because she discovered that tears could not change her situation. Instead, she focused on one thing, finishing the debt that had destroyed her family. Every day, she reminded herself that she was not doing this for the chief or for anyone else. She was doing it because she wanted to see her father smile again and bring peace back to her home. During this time, Adama received little information about her family. She only heard that her father's health was becoming worse because of worry. The news broke her heart, but it also pushed her to keep fighting. She started counting the days until she could leave and return to Ape. She imagined sitting beside her father, cooking for her brothers, and finally living the normal life she lost. But she did not know that another tragedy was waiting for her family. In the village, Emeka was struggling with the pain of losing his sister, and his anger was growing. He wanted to find a way to bring Adama home, even if it meant challenging powerful people. Emeka was no longer the carefree boy Adama remembered. Losing his sister changed him completely. He spent his days working and trying to help his father, but deep inside he carried anger toward Chief Okoro. He believed the chief had destroyed their family and stolen the future Adama deserved. Namdi, who was younger and more innocent, still believed that his sister would return soon. He kept asking about her and refused to believe that she was gone from their lives. One evening, Chinedu became seriously ill. His body had become weak from years of stress and sadness. Emeka and Namdi stayed beside him, taking care of him as best as they could. Chinedu often spoke about Adama, saying he wished he could apologize for what happened. He blamed himself for the pain she was facing. Far away, Adama continued working toward freedom, unaware that her father's condition was getting worse. She believed she still had enough time to save him. Her only dream was to clear the debt and return home. She did not know that fate was already changing the future she had been fighting for. After another difficult period, Adama finally received news from home. She expected to hear that her father was recovering and that her brothers were doing well. Instead, she was told that Emeka had become very sick after struggling with the hardship that followed her disappearance. The news shocked her because Emeka had always been the strongest person in her life. She remembered him protecting her when they were children and making her laugh whenever she was sad. The thought of him suffering made her feel helpless. Adama prayed every night that her brother would survive and that her family would remain together. She worked harder because she believed that if she returned quickly enough, she could still save everyone. But life continued to test her. The person who had sacrificed so much for her family was now facing the possibility of losing them one by one. Adama looked at herself in the mirror and wondered how much more pain she could endure. Yet, she refused to surrender. She held on to the dream of freedom, believing that one day she would escape the darkness and create a new beginning for herself and the family she loved. The news about Emika's condition continued to trouble Adama. Every day, she wondered how her brother was doing and whether he was still strong enough to survive. She wished she could be beside him, taking care of him like she did when they were children. She remembered how Emika always stood up for her whenever someone hurt her feelings and how he promised that one day he would build a better house for their family. Those memories became painful because she knew she was missing important moments of his life. Still, she continued enduring her situation because she believed finishing the debt was the only way to bring peace back home. In Ape Village, Chinedu watched his family slowly break apart. His illness became worse, and he struggled to move around like he used to. Namdi became more responsible, helping with household duties even though he was still young. Emika tried to remain strong, but his body was becoming weaker every day. The family had lost their happiness, and the empty space where Adama once brought laughter was impossible to ignore. Chinedu often sat outside their home looking toward the road, hoping to see his daughter return. He regretted the decision that changed Adama's life, but he also knew he had made that choice because he wanted to protect his children. The family that once struggled together now faced pain that none of them were prepared for. Adama continued counting every day she spent away from home. She was closer than ever to finishing what she believed would free her family. The thought of returning to Ape became the reason she woke up each morning. She imagined seeing her father smile, hearing Emika's voice again, and watching Namdi grow into the person he wanted to become. She promised herself that when she returned, she would never allow her family to suffer again. She wanted to start a small business, rebuild their home, and create the peaceful life they once dreamed about. But while Adama was planning for the future, her father's health was getting worse. Chinedu became weaker, and the people around him feared he might not recover. Emika tried to hide his pain from Namdi, but he was scared. He knew their father had been carrying guilt for years and that the sadness of losing Adama had affected him deeply. Every night, Chinedu prayed that Adama would forgive him. He wanted to see her one more time and tell her that she was the best daughter he could have asked for. However, time was moving faster than anyone expected, and Adama was unaware that her biggest reason for fighting was slowly slipping away. One morning, Adama noticed something different in the people around her. The usual routine continued, but she felt a strange heaviness in her heart. Later, she received heartbreaking news that changed everything. Emika, the brother who always protected her and dreamed of a better future, had passed away after his long struggle with sickness. Adama felt like the world had stopped. She could not believe that the person who always stood beside her was gone. She remembered their childhood days and the promises they made to each other. The pain was overwhelming because she had hoped to return home and save him. The loss of Emika affected the entire family. Namdi became quiet, and Chinedu's health became even worse after hearing about his son. Adama felt helpless because she was far away from them. She blamed herself for not being there and wondered if she had made the right choice by sacrificing her freedom, but deep inside, she knew she had only wanted to protect the people she loved. The tragedy gave her a new determination. She no longer wanted only to finish the debt, she wanted to escape and return home before she lost anyone else. Her heart was broken, but her hope was still alive. After losing Emika, Adama became more determined than ever. She no longer allowed herself to think about giving up. She carried the pain of her brother's death every day, but she turned that pain into strength. She reminded herself that Emika would never want her to remain trapped. He would want her to continue fighting and find a better life. She worked harder, saving every opportunity she could, hoping the end of her suffering was finally near. Her dream was no longer just about returning home, it was about honoring the brother she lost. Meanwhile, Chinedu's condition continued to decline. He spent many nights talking about Adama, wishing he could see her again. He told Namdi that his greatest regret was allowing his daughter to carry a burden that belonged to him. Namdi listened quietly, trying to stay strong for his father. Far away, Adama believed she still had enough time to return and rebuild their family. She did not know that every passing day was taking her closer to a painful goodbye. The journey ahead would test her more than anything she had experienced before, but she still held on to the belief that after all her suffering, a new beginning was waiting for her. Adama woke up every morning with one thought in her mind: freedom. After everything she had endured, she believed she was finally getting close to the end of the debt that had controlled her life. She counted the money she had helped gather over time and realized that only a small amount remained. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future beyond suffering. She pictured herself returning to Ape Village, standing in front of her family home, and seeing her father waiting for her. The dream gave her strength during the moments when sadness tried to overcome her. However, Adama did not know how much her family had changed while she was away. Her father was becoming weaker, and the loss of Emeka had left a painful emptiness in their home. Nnamdi tried to stay strong, but he missed his brother and sister deeply. Chinedu spent his days thinking about the sacrifices Adama had made for them. He wished he could go back and choose another way, but he knew the past could not be changed. All he could do was hope that Adama would return before it was too late. Meanwhile, Adama continued pushing forward, believing that her family would finally have peace after years of struggle. Chinedu's health continued to decline, and every day became more difficult for him. He struggled with his strength, but his biggest pain was not his illness, it was the guilt he carried in his heart. He believed that he had failed Adama by allowing her to suffer because of his debt. Although he had only wanted to protect his children, he felt responsible for the years of pain she experienced. Nnamdi often sat beside him, listening as his father spoke about the past and the daughter he missed more than anything. Far away from home, Adama remained unaware of how serious her father's condition had become. She continued working toward the moment she would finally return. She imagined bringing happiness back to the family and creating a home where no one would ever feel powerless again. She held on to memories of her father teaching her how to be kind and strong. Those memories reminded her that she was fighting for something meaningful. But as the days passed, the distance between them became more painful. Adama was racing toward freedom, but time was racing faster. One evening, Adama received a message that made her heart stop. She had been hoping for good news, but instead, she heard that her father's condition had become critical. She immediately felt fear because she knew how much time had already been lost. She wanted to leave immediately and return to Ape, but she was still tied to the remaining debt. She begged for more time, explaining that she needed to see her father. Her heart was filled with worry because she had already lost Emeka, and she could not imagine losing her father too. The situation forced Adama to make difficult decisions. She realized that money and debt had already taken too much from her family. She began looking for a way to finish everything faster so she could finally leave. Every night, she prayed for her father to hold on until she returned. In Ape, Chinedu also prayed for the same thing. He wanted to see his daughter one last time, to tell her how proud he was of her and how sorry he felt for the life she was forced to live. Both father and daughter were fighting against time, hoping they would meet again. Adama's determination became stronger after hearing about her father. She refused to let sadness control her because she still had a goal. She wanted to finish the debt, leave her painful situation, and return home. The young girl who once cried every night had become someone who understood the strength of survival. She had been through experiences that changed her, but she still carried the kindness and love she learned from her family. She reminded herself that her father and brothers were the reason she continued. As Adama worked toward freedom, she began thinking about the future beyond her suffering. She wanted to use her experience to help other girls who might face similar struggles. She knew that nobody should lose their dreams because of poverty or someone else's greed. But before she could think about helping others, she needed to save herself and reunite with her father. Every step she took was filled with hope and fear. She feared arriving too late, but she refused to believe that her story would end with only pain. She believed she would soon return to Ape and begin again with her father and Nnamdi. Her heart was filled with excitement and sadness at the same time. She thought about Emeka and wished he could be there to see the day she escaped. She promised herself that she would never forget him and that his memory would always remain part of her life. But before Adama could return home, another heartbreaking truth reached her. Her father's condition had become worse, and everyone feared he might not survive much longer. Adama felt the pain of fear return. She had lost one brother already, and she could not bear the thought of losing her father too. She prepared herself to leave immediately, hoping she could reach him in time. She did not know what awaited her when she arrived, but she knew one thing: she needed to see the man who had loved her and sacrificed everything for his children. For the first time in years, Adama was preparing to return to Ape Village. The thought of seeing her father again filled her heart with emotions she could barely explain. She imagined walking through the village paths, entering the small house where she grew up, and hearing her father call her name. She thought about Namdi and wondered how much he had changed. Although she carried many painful memories, she also carried hope that the family she left behind could finally heal. The journey home felt like the beginning of a new life. As she traveled, Adama remembered every moment that brought her to that point. She remembered the day her mother left, the night her father borrowed the money, and the painful day she was taken away. She thought about Emeka's laughter and the promises they made as children. Those memories made her emotional, but they also reminded her why she kept fighting. She believed her suffering had a purpose because it helped protect her family. However, she did not know that the home she was returning to was not the same one she had left years before. When Adama finally reached Ape Village, everything felt both familiar and different. The trees, the roads, and the sound of the village reminded her of childhood, but the happiness she once knew was gone. She stood outside her family's small house with tears in her eyes. She remembered running around that same place with Emeka and Namdi when they were younger. She wanted to believe that stepping inside would bring back the past, but she knew life had changed them all. Namdi was the first person to see her. For a moment, he could not believe it was really his sister standing there. The young boy she remembered had grown into someone who had experienced too much sadness. He ran toward her, and they held each other tightly, both crying. Adama asked about their father immediately, and Namdi's expression changed. He explained that Chinedu had been weak for a long time and was waiting to see her. Adama's heart became heavy because she realized her return had come later than she hoped. Adama rushed into the room where her father was resting. When Chinedu saw his daughter, his eyes filled with tears. For years, he had dreamed of this moment, and now it was finally happening. He reached for her hand and apologized for everything she had gone through. Adama tried to comfort him, telling him that she understood why he made the choices he did. She did not want their reunion to be filled with guilt and sadness. She wanted her father to know that she loved him. Chinedu smiled because hearing those words gave him peace. He told Adama that she had always been the strongest person in the family. He spoke about Emeka and how much he wished his son could have seen her return. Adama cried as she listened because she still missed her brother deeply. The family spent time together, sharing memories and holding on to the happiness of being reunited. For a short moment, they forgot the pain they had experienced. But deep inside, Adama noticed that her father's strength was fading. The days that followed were precious for Adama. She stayed beside her father, caring for him and trying to make up for all the years they lost. She cooked for him, listened to his stories, and reminded him that he was no longer alone. Namdi was happy to have his sister back, and for the first time in a long while, their home felt alive again. Adama believed that maybe their family could still heal despite everything that happened. But Chinedu's condition continued to worsen. One quiet night, he called Adama close and held her hand. He told her he was proud of the woman she had become. He begged her not to let the pain of the past destroy her future. Adama tried to stay strong, but she feared losing him. She had already lost Emeka, and her heart could not accept another goodbye. Chinedu told her that life had tested her, but he believed she would rise above every challenge. His words became a final gift to his daughter. The morning after their emotional conversation, Adama woke up hoping to spend another day with her father. She walked into his room with a smile, ready to greet him, but something felt different. The house was unusually quiet, and Namdi stood nearby with sadness in his eyes. Adama immediately understood that something had happened. Her heart started racing as she approached her father, hoping she was wrong. Chinedu had passed away peacefully during the night. The news broke Adama completely because the person she fought so hard to save was gone. She sat beside him, remembering all the sacrifices he made for his children. She cried not only because she lost her father, but because she felt the weight of everything she endured. She had returned home hoping to build a new life with him, but fate had taken that dream away. Nnamdi comforted his sister, reminding her that their father loved them deeply. Adama realized that although she had lost the people she loved most, she still had a choice. She could allow her pain to defeat her or use it to create a future her family would be proud of. After Chinedu's burial, Adama felt like she was living in a world that no longer made sense. The house that once carried the sounds of her father's voice and her brother's laughter became painfully quiet. She walked from room to room remembering every moment they shared. She saw the place where her father used to sit, the corner where Emeka played when they were younger, and the small space where Nnamdi studied. Every memory reminded her of everything she had lost. She had spent years fighting to return home, believing that being with her father again would heal her wounds, but life had given her another heartbreak. Nnamdi tried his best to stay strong, but he was also struggling. Losing Emeka and their father within a short time had changed him. Adama realized that she was no longer only a daughter, she was now the person her younger brother needed. Although she was tired and broken inside, she decided she would not let their family disappear completely. She remembered her father's final words and knew he wanted her to continue living. Adama promised herself that she would protect Nnamdi and rebuild the life they deserved. For the first time in years, she began thinking about a future that was not controlled by the chief's debt. Days turned into weeks, and Adama slowly started adjusting to life back in Ape Village. The pain of losing her father did not disappear, but she learned how to carry it. She helped Nnamdi with daily responsibilities and tried to bring peace back into their home. The villagers who once saw her as the girl who was taken away began to notice her strength. Many people admired how she survived so much and still returned with kindness in her heart. Adama also began thinking about her own dreams again. For years, she had only focused on paying the debt and saving her family. Now that her father was gone, she wondered what she wanted for herself. She remembered the girl she used to be, the girl who dreamed of building something meaningful and helping others. She knew her past could not be changed, but she believed her future could still be different. With Nnamdi beside her, she decided that their family's story would not end with suffering. She wanted their home to become a place of hope instead of sadness. Although Adama was trying to move forward, the memory of Chief Okoro continued to trouble her. She remembered how his decision changed her life and took away years she could never get back. She felt anger rising inside her, but she also remembered her father's advice about not allowing bitterness to control her heart. She knew she needed to face the past, but she did not want it to destroy the future she was building. One day, Adama heard that many people in the village were still afraid of the chief. She discovered that other families had also suffered because they depended on powerful people during difficult times. This made her realize that her story was not only about her. Many others were carrying silent pain. Adama decided that she wanted to use her experience to bring change. She did not want another young girl to lose her dreams because of someone else's greed. Her suffering had given her a purpose, and she was ready to fight for a better future. Adama started a small business with the little she had saved before returning home. It was not easy at first, and there were many days when she doubted herself. She had no father to guide her and no Emeka to encourage her. But every time she felt weak, she remembered the sacrifices her family made. She wanted to create something that would make them proud. Nnamdi helped her whenever he could, and together they slowly rebuilt their lives. As the business grew, Adama began supporting other young girls in the village who needed help. She listened to their stories and shared her own experiences. Many people were surprised by her courage because they only saw the pain she went through, not the strength it took to survive. Adama realized that her journey had changed her. She was no longer only the girl who was taken away. She was now a woman who had overcome challenges and was using her voice to help others. Years after leaving Ape Village, Adama looked back at the person she used to be. She remembered the young girl who believed her dreams would never come true because of poverty and circumstances. She remembered the fear, the sadness, and the moments when she thought she had lost everything. But she also remembered the strength that kept her moving forward. She realized that although her journey was painful, it had shaped her into someone stronger. Adama visited her father's resting place and spoke quietly, telling him about everything she had achieved. She told him that Namdi was doing well and that their family name was no longer connected only to hardship. She thanked him for teaching her kindness and courage. Standing there, she finally understood that she was not defined by what happened to her. She was defined by how she chose to rise afterward. Adama's story became a reminder in Ape Village that even after great loss, a person can still find hope and create a new beginning. Although Adama had built a peaceful life, she sometimes found herself remembering the painful years she spent away from home. Some nights, she would sit outside her house and watch the stars, thinking about the girl she used to be. She remembered how innocent she was before poverty and the chief's decision changed everything. She wondered how different her life would have been if her father never needed that loan. But instead of allowing those thoughts to break her, she used them as a reminder of how far she had come. Namdi noticed whenever his sister became quiet and would remind her that their father would be proud of her. He told her that she had given their family a second chance and that many people in the village looked up to her. Those words helped Adama understand that her life was not only about the pain she experienced. She had survived, rebuilt her home, and created hope where there was once only sadness. The past would always be part of her story, but it would no longer control her future. As time passed, Adama became known throughout Ape Village for her strength and kindness. People who once whispered about her past began respecting her because of the way she carried herself. She helped struggling families whenever she could and encouraged young people to continue believing in their dreams. She wanted the village to understand that poverty should never decide a person's worth or future. One day, some villagers came to Adama with a problem. A young girl from a poor family was facing pressure because of a debt her parents could not repay. The situation reminded Adama of her own painful experience years earlier. She felt the fear and sadness she once carried, but this time she was not powerless. She stepped forward and helped the family find another solution. That moment showed Adama that her suffering had given her a purpose. She could not change what happened to her, but she could help prevent others from walking the same path. Adama continued building the life she once dreamed about. Her small business became successful, and she used her progress to support more people in her community. She never forgot where she came from or the struggles her family faced. The simple house where she grew up remained special to her because it represented both her pain and her strength. Every corner carried memories of her father, Emeka, and the childhood she lost too soon. One evening, Adama sat with Namdi and talked about everything they had survived. They remembered their father's sacrifices and Emeka's laughter. They agreed that their family had faced many storms, but they were still standing. Adama promised herself that she would continue fighting for a better future, not only for herself but for everyone who felt trapped by difficult circumstances. She finally understood that freedom was not only about escaping pain, it was about creating something meaningful afterward. The girl who once lost everything had become a woman who gave others hope.